Hello and welcome back to Politically Incorrect. I'm Tom Christiano. Well, tonight we have an outstanding group of candidates in our local election, and we're going to talk about some things having to do with the selectman race, the planning board, some town meeting rep races, and we'll probably talk about the school committee and some other races in town as well, in addition to many local Chelmsford issues. So with me tonight we have Henry Parlee. How are you, Henry?
Very good. How are you?
Good, good, thanks. Henry, it's your first time on this show. It's really exciting, right?
Very exciting.
Yeah.
Big time.
Huge audience, too.
Yeah, huge audience here, right here. You know. And so Henry is running for a seat the planning board this year.
That's correct. That's correct.
And later on in the show, we'll talk all about why he decided to run. But basically, your background, Henry, you've been a farmer in Chelmsford for a long time, right?
My family, I'm the third generation farmer in this town.
Wow.
Yeah, my family has been in the town for a long time. I've grown up around here. I've been exposed to a lot of the open space. I used to farm the Lewis land before it was ever town property or anything else. So I've been involved in a lot of area in town.
I don't know how you do it because you're also an electrician
That's
as
correct.
well,
I'm
right,
an electrician, yeah. And I'm an electrical inspector in Carlisle.
Electrical inspector in Carlisle? Wow.
Yeah.
How do you do all this?
You work a lot of hours, from early in the morning till late at night.
Geez, better you than me, Henry.
Yeah. Didn't you just see that Dodge ad on commercial where they showed you the guy all the time? That's me.
Oh,
yeah.
geez, my God. And as everyone probably knows, you have the farm, one farm off of Pine Hill Road where your house is.
That's correct, the strawberry farm.
And you also have a lovely wife and two beautiful daughters.
Yeah.
And your wife raises Jack Russell Terriers sometimes, right?
That's correct, yeah.
That's wonderful.
I have a son that works in the town hall.
Oh,
too.
and your son too, yes.
Yeah.
He's working, what department
Solid
is he
waste,
now?
he was solid waste and recycling. He's in charge of the town. He also does a little building, I don't want to say maintenance, but he's in charge of the building at night when you have to get in and out of there for different board meetings and different things like that.
Wonderful. Well, thanks for finally being on the show, Henry. And I know you were elected for the first time as a town meeting representative about a year ago, right? Something like.
That's correct. And I've also been on the Board of Agriculture, which actually got me started with this whole process, where I took in, you know, we went in front of the town meeting. We tried to get the right to farm bylaw passed, which we did. And it got us involved with talking to the planning board, talking to the selectmen, got me involved in seeing what's going on and trying to work the process and trying to get through the process to help farming.
Wonderful.
And you know, we've got a lot of issues to hammer out in the next couple of years with agriculture and stuff, and hopefully we can get you know, nobody knows what's happening with our space in town. Everybody's getting older, the farmers that are left and the space that's left.
Yes.
You know. And
great. Well, we'll talk all about the planning board race, what your objectives are and goals a little bit later on in the show. But thanks again for being here, Henry.
You're welcome.
And we have also for the first time on the show tonight, Roland Van Liew. How are you, Roland?
Very good, thanks, Tom.
Hey, thanks. And Roland, as everyone knows, is a candidate for selectman this year, right? Also, last year you were town meeting representative for Precinct 6.
That's right.
And you're running for that again this year.
Yes.
And you're also the owner of what, Hands-On Technology Transfer?
You got that right.
Oh, really? Great. Hey,
Hot,
my memory isn't
commonly
as
known
bad
as
as
Hot. I'm Mr. Hot, according to my wife.
Mr. Hot, all right. Hey, that's a good nickname, huh? Mr. Hot.
Good to worse. Actually, she didn't make that up. That was made up by a bank teller at Eastern Bank when it was Mass Bank.
Yeah.
And I would go in, and she was from, originally grew up in Eastern Europe, and she would say, "Oh, Mr. Hot." and it was just terrific. You know.
That's a good nickname, but you've never used it as a nickname, have you?
No, I don't go.
Nice, nice. Well, thanks for being here, Roland. We'll talk a lot about the race for selectmen later on in the show. Anything else you want to mention in your introduction? Any committees or whatever that you might want to mention?
Just that I want to say that I think it's great that Henry's running for the planning board, because to have an agricultural use expert on that board will bring, I think, a much needed perspective to their discussions.
Great.
Yeah.
Great, thanks. I agree. Thanks, Roland. And we have Chris Garrahan on the show tonight. How are you, Chris?
Good evening, Tom. Good.
You know, you must be used to it now, Chris, because it's your 15th time on the show. Of course, I've been doing this show almost 18 years now, so it's not quite one a year, Chris. So we got to get you up there. So yeah, because Chris has been a longtime member of the planning board, and now you're the chairman of the Conservation Commission in town, right?
That's right, Tom. Yeah.
And you're also on the show tonight because you're also a candidate for re-election town meeting representative in Precinct 8, right, Chris?
That's correct, Tom.
Great.
Yeah.
Any other committees that you might want to mention that you're on the show tonight?
I'm on the Community Preservation Committee this year.
Great. Oh, that's an interesting committee. there's a lot of money involved with that in terms of which projects you
sure.
give the money to
Right.
help out. Well, thanks for being here again, Chris.
Great to be here, Tom.
Thanks. And we have Pat Magnell here again.
Hi,
How are
Tom.
you, Pat?
I'm good, thank you.
And Pat, this is your third time on the show, so you're getting used to it as well, right, Pat?
Yes, I guess so. It's been a while, but
Been a while, yeah.
but no, and I appreciate the invitation.
My pleasure. And I invited you, Chris, because you're a candidate this year as well for a town meeting representative in Precinct 8.
That's right.
You're running for re-election, and
Yes.
right now we have 6 candidates running for 6 seats in Precinct 8. So both you and Chris are safe at the moment in terms of.
Well, not necessarily. Well, somebody could take out papers
Well, that's what I
and,
meant. I
and
said
return
at
them.
the-
One doesn't want to be presumptuous about
No, I
these
said
things.
at the moment
At
you
the
are.
moment, right.
You're safe, yes.
Right,
And
right.
right now the papers are due back on February 8th. That's right. I'm sorry, you have to pull papers by February 8th.
Mm-hmm.
They're due back by February 12th. However, just to let everybody at home know, there may be a delay in our election from April 2nd to April 30th in order to combine the election with the primary for the U.S. Senate race and to save a little bit of money. So just keep that in mind that there might be a little change in election date. And if that's the case, the town clerk told me today that there would be changes in the due dates for all these papers. So it would complicate things, but the selectmen are scheduled to vote on that particular issue that next Monday at their meeting. They will be the ones to vote on that. So there may or may not be a delay in our April 2nd election date is the bottom line on that. So Pat, is there any other committees that you're on? Anything you'd like to mention in your introduction?
I'm not at any other committees at the moment. In the past couple of years, I've had some mobility issues, so it's sort of limited my ability to do it, but not dampen my enthusiasm. And I'm hoping that in the not too distant future, I will try to become involved in that. When a couple of years ago, when the movement to preserve the town halls gathered strength, that was something that I wasn't involved in. That was certainly an issue that resonated with people in the town.
Yes,
But preservation issues, conservation issues are really a topic of high priority with me. So that's something I do intend to do in the future.
Oh, wonderful. I see Sal Lupoli is here. And hi, Sal.
Hey, Tom, how are you, sir?
Good, thanks. Sal is going to come on the show for about 5 minutes to talk about the synthetic fields. So, Sal, could you come over here and put this microphone on, and we'll be all set?
I feel terrible. I'm displacing you.
Yeah.
What a pleasure.
Well, Chris will be back in a few minutes. Hi, Sal.
Hi, Tom. How are you? Good to see you.
Good to see you. Thanks
Hi,
for
what a
coming
pleasure.
back.
Hi. Hi, Sal.
Hi, Sal.
Yeah.
Good to see you.
Hey, what's up?
Roland and Henry, and this is Sal Lupoli, the owners of Sal Lupoli Enterprises, I would say.
thank you
Sal
very much.
Lupoli's Pizza, Salvatore's Restaurant, the big development in Lawrence.
Yeah, some wonderful stuff.
I mean,
Hampton
you're
Beach.
just amazing. You talked about it on our last show, Sal, when you were on for the full hour. I just found it amazing that you could do that. Plus, you could find the time to volunteer here in Chelmsford.
Yeah,
It was
I'm
amazing.
the president of Chelmsford Papuana, and I coach Papuana. But also, I'm lucky enough to coach at the high school. I'm the varsity defensive line coach, so it's a lot of great stuff.
Defensive line coach. Wow, I don't know how you do it, Sal. Do you get up early in the morning, go to bed late?
very
Or?
good. It's funny. We all have that internal time clock, right? So no matter what time I go to bed, which is usually 11 or 12 o'clock, I'm up at 3:30 or 4. And
3:30 or 4? No, really?
Yes,
Oh
because in
my
my
God.
business, there's always somebody to talk to.
Yeah.
Because I'm in the construction business, so contractors start at 3:30,
Yes.
4 o'clock in the morning, and then I'm in the hospitality business, and that business starts, or ends, I should say, at 1 o'clock in the morning. So, unfortunately, there's always somebody to talk to.
Oh my God! But you don't get too tired. You could survive on 4 or 5 hours of sleep a night if you get that.
So I'm not proud that I do that, but the answer is yes.
That's
I wish I
wonderful.
slept a
I'm
little
not sure if I could get along on 4 or 5 hours of sleep a night. But anyway, I'm losing my microphone. So Sal, how about if you give us a little talk about the synthetic fields, and whatever you want to say about it, and that's why you're here tonight, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
So
As a matter of fact,
yeah.
from the first time of being on your show, I can't tell you how much we as a community appreciate you allowing us to come onto this venue. But I will
My
tell you
pleasure.
that it's really spreading very quickly. It's very exciting. And what's so exciting about it is we had the first fundraiser over at the Princeton Lounge, and you were there for that, and that was wonderful. And we raised almost $17,000.
Wow, wonderful.
Big turnout, a lot of excitement. We were able to capture a lot of email addresses, and people are really getting active, and they want to know what's going on, so we're excited about that. George Dixon, the selectman, is kind of spearheading that. You know, he's in charge of the whole fundraising. And then Scotty Moreau and the rest of the team is really bringing the people together. But what I think is really exciting is, and I have some wonderful news, we're very close to getting close to already $100,000.
Really?
And I think that's really exciting.
Congrats.
Last night, I got one of the first approvals from Chelmsford Popwana. And Chelmsford Popwana, and I'll make the announcement today, nobody knows about this, is going to be donating $50,000 to the field. So really what you're seeing right now is exactly what we talked about, Tom. You see that community involvement, you see that interaction, because as you know, Tom, and as we've discussed, this isn't just a athletic field. This is a community image. This is a community field. So we're getting a lot of buy-in from people that not only have children in sports, but also outside of sports. How can I help my community? And it's just on this show that we started that, so I want to tell you how much we appreciate that.
Oh, my pleasure, Sal. It was wonderful. And if you could talk a minute about why we need the synthetic fields, and do you have the next fundraiser set up yet? Any kind of date, or where we could ask people to attend? Do you have that yet set up yet?
Absolutely. We're still kind of fooling around with the date of the comedy show. But having said that, I'll make sure I get you that immediately, and you can make that announcement.
Could I be one of the performers?
The answer is absolutely yes. Absolutely yes.
All right.
You can
I
see
can
it.
make my debut there.
Absolutely.
All right.
So what I think is exciting is this. You have a couple of comedy shows coming up. George Dixon's doing an unbelievable job. Don't forget, we have 2 websites. We have the school website that you can go on, and then we have ChelmsfordTurfField.com. Or the second one, Chelmsford Turf Fields, plural, and singular.com. So both of those websites bring you to a PayPal. You can make a donation right there. And also you can go on the school website and do the same thing. Both of them have a different message, and I think that's important.
Yeah. And you're trying to raise about $500,000 within 3 months, right? Is that correct?
That's absolutely
For these
correct.
synthetic fields. The total cost would be about $3.1 million?
You have an excellent memory, and the answer is yes. We have to raise $500,000, which is a part of a bigger package, which is $3.1 million. So the town's going to come up with $2.6 million in a combination, and also the private sector is going to come up with $500,000. So you would be so proud. Our community would be so proud of the moms and dads and the average hardworking person in our community that's stepping up and saying, "Hey, will $200 do? Will $500 do?" So there's been a lot of buy-in from people, and like I said, to answer your question directly, this is a community field. It's not just for athletics. It's for all types of events, from the band all the way up to fundraising programs that we do as a community. It involves a brand new track around McCarthy, brand new fencing, brand new lights at McCarthy so the children or the events can take place at night, brand new stands at McCarthy, also the synthetic field at the high school, scoreboards at both locations. So this is a big deal. I think this is a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity for us. We've been working on this program now for over 5 years to try to bring fields to our community.
Remember the billboards and everything?
That's exactly right.
Trying to, I remember you at the town
That's
meeting
right,
one
Tom.
year, handing out things.
That's right.
You've been trying for a long time.
Over 5 years.
But it looks like we're getting closer now. It might come up at this town meeting in April, right? Or if we have it in April.
Absolutely correct.
And it's safer for the children, is that correct? And the athletes on the synthetic fields versus the grass type of field?
No question about it. They have proven data that supports less injuries take place on synthetic fields than on a natural surface field for various reasons. If you were to go to the high school and after you have so much play on a regular field, you develop potholes and you develop other areas of the field that aren't steady. And with a synthetic field, it's always the same all the time. And it's not like the old AstroTurf fields that people sometimes get a little confused with. This is a synthetic field. I will tell you this, if you've ever walked on it, it's terrific. It's held up by frozen black pellets, and it's just like grass, Tom.
Wonderful. Well, Sal, is there anything else you want to say before we have to say goodbye for the night? You're welcome to come on our next show, too, which is 2 weeks from tonight, by the way.
I think that's great, and hopefully I'll have some additional good news.
Great.
Once again, the momentum is building. We need the whole town involved in this. This is a community project. I'm very excited about it. My address is on the website at ChelmsfordTurfField.com. You'll see S. Lupoli at ChelmsfordField.com. turffield.com. Please email me. This is not just about raising money. I'm desperately asking people to support me and put boots on the ground, and let's build a coalition to go out into the community to help us.
Great.
You don't have to give money to support this program.
Well, thank you so much, Sal. You did another great job coming on the show tonight. And for the town, you're doing an amazing work. Oh, and we got to get a Salvatore's restaurant here in Chelmsford, right?
Yes, we have to do that.
We got to find a location.
Please help me.
I've been talking to people about this. Oh, that would be great. I said, we got to find a, Sal said he needs a location. So
Yeah.
please, Sal, come here to Chelmsford again, you know, and it'd be great. And you can imagine you could be there greeting everybody as they come in because you know everybody. And
Please, I'd probably be getting yelled at in the back of the house somewhere washing all the dishes. They keep me chained up in the back now.
Well, thank you so much, Sal, again. And 2 weeks from tonight, I'll be in touch with you, and you're welcome to come on that show as well and talk for a few minutes about the fields.
Well, you brought us good luck, so thank you very much for allowing me to come on the show, and I look forward to seeing you in 2 weeks.
Yes, my pleasure, Sal.
Thanks,
Thank
guys.
you.
Can I
Thank
say
you
one
very
thing?
much.
Just
Yes, please.
have people take and try to get a hold of their representatives and stuff that are in charge of this and find out what's actually involved. These people are doing a lot of work. It's a lot more than just a turf field. And a lot of people, when they look at it, and they say, one turf field? No, it's a lot more than that. It's fences, it's lighting, it's the whole community thing. Just educate yourself about this so we can make an intelligent and reasonable decision when it comes voting time.
You're absolutely correct, and I appreciate that. And if you go onto both sites, especially the school site, you'll see the school site in a very technical way explains all of the program, explains everything that the fields is all about, the fencing, the stands, the scoreboard. So I'm so glad you said that. So go on the Chelmsford school site, you'll see the technical portion of it, and then you can go on chelmsfordturffields.com, and you'll be able to see a different perspective of what we're trying to do from the community, from a private perspective.
All right, well, thank you so much, Sal.
Thanks,
And
Tom.
Wonderful
And thanks,
job.
everyone, for allowing me.
Thank
Bye-bye.
you. Wonderful job. See, if you could just put it there. We'll talk a little bit about the selectman race now. Just to give everybody an update, this is February 5th that we're taping the show of 2013. And right now, for the candidates for selectmen, there are 2 seats that are up. Matt Hansen's seat is up, and he said he's going to be running for re-election. John Curlin's seat is up, but John has said he's not going to be running for re-election this year. So therefore, there will be 2 selectmen seats that are available this year. And one is held by a current incumbent, but that may or may not change. We don't know. So in addition to Matt Hansen, who pulled papers in chronological order, we had Roland Van Liew, who's with us tonight. Yes. And we'll talk about Roland running this year a little bit later in a minute. We have Bob Joyce, who was a selectman in the mid-1990s for 1 term. He also is currently on the planning board, and he's been on that planning board for quite a while, and he's been a town meeting representative for many, many years. So Bob has pulled papers. Also, Pat Maloney pulled papers on January 23rd. Pat Maloney is the chairman of the Permanent Building Committee here in Chelmsford, and I believe he has an architectural firm here in Chelmsford. And he's not a town meeting representative, but anyway, he pulled papers on January 23rd. And just yesterday, the current school committee chairperson, Janet Askenberg, pulled papers for selectmen. So right now we have 5 potential candidates for selectmen, but according to what I just printed out, only Matt Hansen has returned his signatures so far. So we don't know if the others are going to be full candidates until their papers are returned and the signatures are certified. Is that correct, Roland?
That's right.
Great. Well, Roland, could you tell us a little bit why you decided to run for selectman again this year?
Well, I think several reasons. One is that we need certainly better oversight and more accountability. We need a more analytical approach to town operations. And we certainly need, I think, an adjustment of certain public policies, particularly with respect to growth and the overemphasis on new commercial construction that has sent commercial property values plummeting. I mean, that's a direct result of bad public policy. And voters have a clear choice in this election of candidates on both sides of that. And I think the final big issue would be, you know, a more focus on cost reduction rather than constantly focusing on what is referred to as revenue enhancement. Yeah. Now, that's not just taxes. I'm talking about billboards, selective logging on open spaces for financial benefit to the town. Things. I mean, people don't want to have to be nickel and diming and squandering valuable assets in order to constantly raise revenue because we're not performing needed cost reductions. Or cost containments, I should say. You never reduce costs with inflation, but you know, the taxes in Chelmsford have gone up 50% in the last decade, while federal salaries have. One resident wrote me just this morning and said, you know, I'm a federal employee. My salary in that time frame has gone up 19%, while my taxes have gone up 50%.
And this 10 years you're talking about.
That's right.
10 years, last 10 years. Yeah.
The national average for salary enhancement was 30%. So, you know, the tax hikes are out of control, and the way to rein that in is partly through cost containment, not just revenue enhancement.
Do you have any specific ideas about cost containment? That is, where you would like hold the line on costs in the town. For example, every year, usually we give our town employees a raise. Maybe it might average about 2%. Are you not in favor of that, or would you like to keep it level for a while?
Oh, that's not what I'm talking about at all. Okay. No, I don't think you take that out on town employees in any way, shape, or form. Yeah. There is a price to lack of oversight. I mean, I've said many times that I don't understand why we overpaid $1.3 million over appraised value for the DPW site to a colleague of the town manager. Where was the oversight? No, nobody on the Board of Selectmen seems concerned about that. In fact, they've said outright they're not concerned about it. I'm concerned about that. The decision-making process that leads to unproductive development that creates more costs than revenue, the tax revenues are not the only thing you consider. Now, I think public officials are more aware of this now than they were 4 or 5 years ago, but I don't see them really acting on it in a big way. Yeah. So it's no one thing. Well, and you know, and these no bid contracts. I mean, I can't even get my arms around that number because the town manager refuses to report the number. Yeah. The chair of the Board of Selectmen claims that there are no such thing as no bid contracts, and yet we are talking about them constantly in the news. I mean, when the lines were painted on scenic roads by mistake, that was a no bid contract. So I don't understand why some people are saying they don't exist, other people are saying that they are not significant. Those no bid, no write contract, I say no writing because there's no work orders, there's no purchase orders, there's no contracts in writing for these no bid situations. So
even for that striping, there wasn't anything in writing?
No, because I did a public records request. Yeah. I got nothing. I got one page, which was a memo created after the fact. Yeah. But there's no documentation of what these contractors were supposed to do, so you can't determine who's at fault, who we should stop using because they're costing us money. To rectify the error, first of all, the contractor got paid to make the erroneous painting, but then beyond that, you had to pay to rectify and remove. So it wound up costing tens of thousands of dollars, and there's no writing. There's no writing.
So your summary savings for the town would come in things like that, you're saying, right?
Yes, a purchase order system
and contracts or redevelopments of buildings where you could pay a better price. You were saying DPW or whatever, things like that.
Absolutely. These are $1 million items.
Yes, yeah. Yes. Rather than like, you aren't in favor of freezing everybody's salary for 5 years or something
Absolutely
like that.
Not. Yeah. No, I'm adamantly opposed to that.
Yeah. Now, so is that your top priorities? Is there anything else that, do you have any other top priorities if you're elected as a selectman?
Sure, there are smaller issues that are smaller financially, but I think are quality of life issues. I want to get the library operating hours up to full operating hours. That studies show that every hour they're open generates so many thousands of extra utilization items per month. So there is a real benefit to doing that.
The library is open Sundays now. You know that, right?
Yes, but the North Chelmsford Library, we want to restore full. I want to restore full operation to that library if possible. Yeah. I mean, it's one of the smallest budget items, and it's one of the most utilized services in the community. Why do you? It's the cost benefit. That equation doesn't make sense to me.
Yeah. Anything else, Roland, in terms of top priorities? We got a few, quite a number.
Well, and there are spending priorities that are, are different every year, and need to be analyzed case by case. Last year we replaced a couple of very large DPW vehicles at a cost of $300,000 that had hardly been utilized because there was only one winter storm. So what was the difference in their condition over the year prior? And the reason given at town meeting for replacing them was because the grid said so. When they bought the vehicles, they get put on the grid 10 years out. So how come we're not looking intelligently at this? Why are we saying because it's on the grid it needs to be done?
Yeah.
That's not, those are the kinds of areas you can save big bucks just by applying common sense.
Yes.
Yeah.
And you know what committee you might want to apply for is the Capital Planning Committee. There aren't usually very many openings on that, but that's where I've been on there for the last couple of years, Roland, and as a library trustee representative. And that's where these big items come up. Like the fire chief comes in, the police chief, the school superintendent, the DPW head. They come in and they said, we need this truck, we need this, we need that. And this is why, this is how many miles are on these vehicles, et cetera, et cetera. Yeah. So that would be a perfect place for you if you can get a position on that. I don't know if there's an opening, but hopefully there might be.
Good luck getting me appointed to anything. Thanks for your support.
Yeah. Well, I would like to see you get an appointment there. I think if you have a perspective on that, you feel you could save us money and evaluate it thoroughly, I think.
Well, the big problem isn't the committees like that, like that one. The big problem is the ad hoc committees that are appointed, or largely appointed. I mean, the Fire Station Study Committee, which was created several years ago to start studying the center fire station disposition, was stacked with current and former firefighters. I mean, that committee decided from day one that they wanted a new fire station at a different location, and the fact that the town spent hundreds of thousands of dollars on studies that said that the best location was the current location, they just ignored that. And the people who were on that committee that weren't firefighters did not vote in the majority to move the fire station, but they were outnumbered by the people that had a vested interest. That's what I mean by vetting, by oversight. Yeah. Properly vetting appointments. It's very important that the selectmen do that. They really haven't evinced much interest in doing that.
I understand. Yeah, thank you, Roland. Maybe later on in the show, hopefully we'll talk about the new fire station, Oak Hill, and a couple of other issues that you are very interested in. And we'll talk to our other candidates for a few minutes. And Henry, why don't we start with you? It's too bad you're all on the same side, so we don't get Pat and Chris over here much, but they're here, and we'll be getting to them. But Henry, so you decided to run for the planning board this year. Could you, I know you talked about it a little bit in the introduction, but could you reiterate it again, why you decided to run for planning board this year?
I just got involved in the agricultural. We got on the Agriculture Commission, we got to go for the Right to Farm bylaw, and it got me involved in these different committees. And I feel like the open space really needs to have a voice. Yeah. I mean, I have personally been preserving open space my entire life. Yeah. And it got me involved in town politics. I got to go to the town meetings. Yes. Next year I ran for town meeting. I think there's a lot of important work that needs to be done. Yeah. And I'm very concerned about the center of town. We got a lot of different things going on there. We need to get things, there's a lot of different things that can be done there to improve the center. And we got to get the right pieces.
You're thinking about?
I'm just thinking, now we're going to get the wires down. We're going to get a bunch of stuff going on there. Yeah. It's just, we need a little economic boost in the center of town.
Yes, that's for sure.
And, it's...
New Salvatore's restaurant.
Would be perfect. We're perfect.
There you go.
We're perfect.
I really think that.
I think you should negotiate for them. I think,
I'd love to. I did that for a profession many years. Contract negotiator, manager,
There you go.
But, so that's great. Do you have any top priorities, Henry, if you are elected this year? And right now you're running unopposed, so it's a good chance you're going to get in. But
top priorities is, I don't have anything, as far as a planning board member, is from what I read and understand, is my job is to interpret the law and to enforce the law. I'm not supposed to be writing the law. And
Yes,
that's how I understand it.
That's true, yeah.
All I have to do, I can put my 2 cents in, I can try to take and do what we can do to help space, but you're supposed to be interpreting the law.
Yes.
And that's where, you know, as this is my first step into it,
Yeah.
you know, I'll try the planning board for a few years, we'll see how it goes.
Yeah.
And maybe you'll burn me out and I'll get the hell out and go back to the strawberry patch and that'll be the end of me.
Well, hopefully that won't happen, but.
But,
yeah.
you know, and also a big chunk of the land that I found was bought this year.
Yeah.
Not from me, it was bought
Right.
from Andy Sheehan, who held fast for a long time
Yes.
to keep the open space.
Yeah.
And, you know, he did sell off a couple of house lots at the end there, but hopefully, you know, we're working well with the neighbors.
Good.
The only thing I would like to see happen a little bit is maybe if we can get a longer term leases, we could maybe get another orchard going in town or something.
Oh, nice. At that
Um,
same area?
Well,
Henry,
you know, I
or-
don't know. We have to, you know,
Okay.
see what's
Anyway,
going on. You
yeah.
know, there's just, you know, apples are a good form of long-term sustainable farming.
Yes, yeah.
You know, the Lupians are having issues right now, and we're working with them to try to get
Oh.
past different things.
Oh.
Maria's having some health problems.
Oh, yeah.
You know, Al had health problems. Mark and his cousin are looking at, you know, taking over, but you know, they've got a lot of issues there to overcome. There's money shortfalls.
Yes.
There's a lot of different
yeah.
things we're looking at. The town's trying to help them.
Yeah.
You know, we're all willing to help them as much as we can. That's why it's
Yes.
important for me to try to get these sign issues straightened out.
Great.
And we're working with the planning board. I got to go Monday for that.
Yes.
And you know, there's a lot of different things that the planning board gets involved in that traces over to agriculture, which I'd like
Yes.
to have.
Yeah.
And you know, being an electrician, I am used to reading blueprints and understanding the building and trade somewhat.
Good,
So
good.
hopefully I can take and bring a little bit of common sense into it too, you know.
Great. Great. Well, thanks, Henry, and good luck with everything.
Yep.
So far, you're running unopposed. Not like Roland has, like, at the moment, 5 candidates for 2 seats. Roland, I don't know. But
Tough road to hoe, as you
tough
say. There
road
you
to hoe,
go.
but we'll see who submits
Literally.
the papers, and maybe all 5 will submit the papers. Like I said, I
We'll
don't
see.
know. Matt Hansen's the only one who submitted them as of the date of this taping. Thank you, Henry. And maybe if we could talk to Chris for a minute, and then Pat. So, Chris, you're running for re-election for town meeting representative this year. That's the only office you're running for at the moment, right? For
That's
this
right.
year.
That's right.
So, how long have you been a town meeting rep? Do you have any idea? I know it's been a long time.
It's been a long time. I really don't know. I mean, I think I was elected somewhere around 1991 or 92, somewhere in that time frame.
I see. Yeah, yeah,
So
me
it's
too.
been a while.
And your top priorities if elected, I know you're one of 162 town meeting reps, so you know you don't have a total amount of power to decide everything, but you do have some power to vote on all these issues.
Well, the great thing about being a town rep is that one vote can make a difference. We've seen that, and a lot of times over the
Oh, yeah.
years. I was talking to Pat earlier. You know, sometimes the meetings are very long, but very often one vote can make a big difference. So,
Something,
you know,
yes.
but my feeling
Oh,
is
it's important, yes.
It's, you know,
Yeah.
it's one vote, but
fact-
it's important, and a lot of it's just common sense in trying to think, you know, what's in the best interest of the town of Chelmsford.
Yes,
You know, and
exactly.
and you know, and talk, try to talk to, you know, relatives, friends, neighbors, and kind of get their ideas, and
Yeah.
and then, you know, you get in there and you listen to the folks debate the issues, and you try to make a decision where you think what's best for the town
Yes.
of Chelmsford.
And I'm sure you and Pat and all the town meeting reps vote for what they feel is the best interest of the town of Chelmsford as a whole. Right, Roland? We all do.
Absolutely.
We try to. And if we have time later in the show, and I hope we do, I want to mention where there's openings for town meeting representative positions still, because at the moment, the papers are due to be pulled by February 8th, so we still have a few openings in some precincts. So if we have time later on in the show, and I don't know if we will, I'll read where there's still openings. But everybody could go to the Town of Chelmsford website. Then you go under the town clerk's office, and then under her office, there's a link for the elections. You could go there and you could see who pulled papers so far and where there's openings for those people at home who are wondering about where there's openings for town meeting representative seats. So thanks, Chris. We might talk about, as you know, Oak Hill later, which the Conservation Commission has a lot of info on and other things. So we'll talk to you, I'm sure, a lot later.
Sounds good, Tom.
And Pat, same with you. You decided to run for re-election. How long have you been a town meeting rep? Do you know?
Actually, only since 2006.
Really? Oh, nice.
It's I know sometimes it seems like longer, but it's, and I've had to run for re-election a few times, and last year I was redistricted to Precinct 8, but it's a short time, but it's been intense, and there's always an issue that brings you back, I think, to wanting to serve.
Yes. And we vote on the budget every year, which is very important, right? Capital items are very important.
Yes.
Zoning laws and issues, changes to zoning, making something like commercial from residential, a very important decision. So it's very important to have that position, town meeting representative, right, Pat?
Oh, it is, and I take a special interest in what the town does with the land that it owns. And of course, Oak Hill is probably the prime example right now, but I think it's so important, as we should probably have learned over the past few years, is that the town should keep and use wisely and strategically land that it owns, and don't sell it off because you can't ever replace it.
Yes.
But I mean, I've only lived in Chelmsford since 1976, but of course the changes I've seen since then are, my street wasn't paved at the time I moved in. I had a horse when I moved in.
Oh, really?
And now it's obviously become more developed. There's more convenience here, which I value. On the other hand, I think there has to be a balance in what the town is. Convenience and development is nice, but you also have to have something that makes people say about the town they are doing something special. And so you have to have the convenience, you have to have the open space, you have to have everything that makes up a quality of life. And if I can have a chance to vote on issues that make a difference like that, I'd like to have it.
Well, I hope you do, Pat, and I hope Chris in Precinct 8 does as well, because I know both of you have been unafraid to go to the microphone when you feel it's important to speak about a particular issue at town meeting, and not all the town meeting reps do that. Not that they should necessarily, but if you feel strongly about an issue and you want to influence the vote, you go up and you present your point of view just before the vote is taken. Or you could ask questions, clarifying questions before the town meeting. And so Pat and Chris have been unafraid to do that. Roland, I think, has also gone up to the microphone at town meeting, yes, about the capital items, I remember. So thank you very much for running again, Pat. And
my pleasure.
Like I said, I'm with Chris. I've been a town meeting rep for about 19 years now. Never missed a meeting, by the way, in those 19 years. I'm just lucky that my health worked out okay during those meeting nights. And but I feel it's so critical and critically important that I wouldn't want to miss a meeting, you know. So anyway, it's an important position. And where there's openings, if you're at home, you're interested in local politics, you have an opinion about what's going on in Chelmsford, then please pull papers. All you need is 25 signatures in your precinct. It's not that difficult. And hopefully you could run for election this time and join us at the Senior Center for the town meetings. Right, well, that's where we usually have them. And
that's where they happen.
Yeah.
That's where it all comes down.
Well, now maybe if we could talk about a few of the specific issues. Maybe, Roland, I think you've been very interested, in Chris, too, on the Conservation Commission, and Pat, too, and Henry, I guess, with Oak Hill. I guess you all have been interested. But I know, Roland, in some of your emails, you talked about Oak Hill, and we'll talk about that a little bit. What do you think about the recommendation that the Oak Hill Study Committee has came up with recently, to go before the, have the Oak Hill be under the auspices, I think, of the Board of Selectmen for about 3 years, and then going to the Conservation Commission. Is that right, Chris? You're a Conservation Commissioner.
Yeah, Conservation Commission, that's one of the recommendations, yeah.
One of the recommendations, yeah. What do you think about that, Roland?
Well, I personally think it was a mistake. It was a split vote. One vote counted, and that committee was stacked, and they voted by one vote, 4-3, to place the control of the parcel under the Board of Selectmen rather than the Conservation Commission, as the residents had asked. Many residents, hundreds of residents signed I mean, that petition wasn't even widely circulated. And the residents signed a petition asking for control to be placed under the Conservation Commission. The committee ignored that voice of the people. And you know, to me, that's a mistake. I read an article, and I don't know if I was misreading it, but the article seemed to indicate that the chair of the Board of Selectmen then said, well, we're not transferring control in 3 years. We've controlled this parcel since the town owned it, and we're going to continue to control it. And
Did he say he's not going to go to the Conservation Commission?
That's what it said in the article. I don't know if they're misquoting him or what, because
I thought it's pretty.
That made no sense to me.
Yeah, I thought it was pretty clear that they were only planning to have it for 3 years. A case like maybe to figure out a way to have some walking trails there or something like that, but no development at all, no housing.
Well, he said that's not going to happen, is what the quote was.
It's not going to happen to go to the Conservation Commission.
So maybe he's misquoted. It doesn't seem reasonable to me.
Yeah.
But I mean, my concern is this: that the selectmen have publicly asserted in a legal filing that they don't have the duty to uphold the law on behalf of the residents of the town. That's an extreme position to take, and it's dangerous when you're dealing with public lands. The chair of that committee, the Oak Hill Committee, stated that it's different than their decision not to uphold the preservation restriction on 9 North Road because it's publicly owned. Well, it's not different because the conservation easements and conservation restrictions and preservation restrictions, there's no distinction in the statutes between public and private. And very importantly, the selectmen have a lot more control over public property. I mean, they can't do selective logging on a private parcel, even if there's a preservation restriction on it. But they sure can on a public parcel. And I will tell you, there's an element of trust here that has to be recreated because it was the Affordable Housing Committee and the selectmen who created a plan to put hundreds of units of housing on Oak Hill just a year and a half ago. And that's what created this public discourse to try and protect it. Now, it's great that it's been publicly in the public discourse for the past 12 months, and all these statements have been made, we're not going to develop it and so on and so forth. What upsets me is that when that discourse began, public officials were saying, oh, there's no plan to build. There's no plan to build. Well, it's right in the affordable housing plan that's been filed with the state. It's right there in black and white, and in fact, it takes 2 pages just to print the excerpts from the master plan and the affordable housing plan that say the best resource for developing housing in town, affordable housing in town, is Oak Hill. And here's the plan. Here's the years that we're going to do it, and here's how many, but there's no plan. Now, that destroys the public trust. And it creates all of this needless effort to protect a property that never should have even been at issue in terms of protection.
Yeah. But now it looks like they're not planning to develop it at all, right?
Well, they'd have a tough time after all these public statements, let me tell you.
Yeah, of not developing it, right?
Yeah.
That's their plan, I think. So I think they're planning to go under the Board of Selectmen just to get little regulations maybe squared away so that maybe the people could use it a little bit for walking trails. Maybe the Boy Scouts could do some camping, that kind of thing. And in order to do that, rather than going directly to the Conservation Commission, they might think that the Board of Selectmen would be the appropriate board to set up those regulations. Is that right, Chris? Or could you clarify that?
Well, I mean,
Chris is
I'm
the
on the
chairman of
Conservation Commission, and 66 acres at Oak Hill, and it's a great spot. I mean, there's woods, there's some walking trails, and it's in North Chelmsford, and it's a great spot to preserve. And right from the get-go, I've certainly wanted to see it become conservation land because I think that's perfect. And when it becomes conservation land, there's extra legal protections under Massachusetts law to keep that as conservation land, really in perpetuity. And as somebody had said earlier, I think Henry was saying, once land, gets built on,
It's gone forever.
you can't put it back. You can't turn the time machine back. So, as I think we're all in agreement on that. So, I like the idea of conservation, and I'm looking forward to seeing that become a conservation property.
Right. But what about this interim plan of going to the Board of Selectmen, which I think is planned for about 3 years? What do you think about that, Chris?
Well, I mean, my personal feeling is 3 years, I think, is a short time when you balance that to having a property in conservation forever.
Yeah.
So I've got conservation forever, 3 short years with the selectmen, and then it becomes conservation. So, you know, I'm happy with the end result of that going to conservation, and I frankly think there's no really other practical use for the property other than conservation. It makes no sense whatsoever for anything else in conservation.
Yeah, there's no real access roads in there, as I understand
exactly.
that kind of thing, and it would, so it's not really meant, suited for development, you might say.
Exactly.
But could I just ask a question about your mailing, Roland, about?
Yes, I have you know, I mean, I don't see why the Conservation Commission, which has a vested interest in really understanding the regulations surrounding conservation property, why there would be an issue of that committee controlling the property rather than the selectmen, for whom such considerations are surely secondary to things like the big budget issues and so on and so forth. And I was certainly concerned about the issue of revenue enhancement and the opportunity to do selective logging.
That's what I want to ask you about.
Sure, go
Roland.
ahead.
You know, you wrote that in one of your mailings, which is like, you said, it appears that the Oak Hill Study Committee member, Phil Stanway, the lead steward of the Chelmsford Open Space Stewards, has been working quietly with the selectmen to set up a deal for selective logging of valuable hardwood at Oak Hill, supposedly in order to create revenue for the town.
Exactly.
So what I wanted to ask you is, have you heard that from somebody? Because Phil says that's not true.
Right.
That he hasn't. Do you know who?
Phil has said a lot of things.
Okay. So do you know what selectmen he's worked with?
See, in order to avoid answering the underlying question, which is, you know, why are you studying selective logging? That's inappropriate, considering the fact that we want to put this land into conservation. Selective logging, unlike what the chairperson of that committee said in a news article recently, selective logging is not the same as forest maintenance. In forest maintenance, you clear away underbrush and stuff so it won't have forest fires and stuff. That's forest maintenance.
Right. And
in selective logging, you take out the logs and you leave the brush. You know what I mean? They're two different things. So I asked Phil about this selective logging, you know, why are you studying it, or are you studying it? In fact, it says, I don't really know. My understanding is that you're studying it. And to avoid answering that question, which he still hasn't answered, he
says he hasn't talked to any.
I understand. He said, you know, I made false accusation, that I accused him of improprieties. I didn't hear the word impropriety there. I didn't hear any accusation there. He has said that I accused him of setting up a side deal for personal profit. Did you read personal profit there?
No, I didn't.
No, I heard revenue
to set
for
up
the
a deal,
town.
right?
So all this
to create revenue for the town is what I.
So since I couldn't get an answer from Phil,
our time is flying by. Go
oh,
ahead.
okay. Since I couldn't get an answer from Phil, I just found for myself the logging study, or the logging report. It's not a study. The logging report, it's 17 pages, that was presented by Jim Murray on Phil's request to the Oak Hill Study Committee. So I don't need an answer to my question anymore. Yes, selective logging was discussed. It was seriously considered, and fortunately, it's off the table as a result of public discussion, and I'm very proud of that. I'm proud that I was able to generate enough dust to kick up enough dust that this got handled publicly with a statement that they will not selectively log on this property. That's what we want. And this is what we don't want, is an attempt to identify logging opportunities for fiscal benefit to the town. So I got my question answered, but not by a committee member.
Thank you.
And that, I think, is an indicator of the arrogance and dismissiveness that is needlessly producing conflict. If these public officials would simply answer simple questions that are asked in private, then I wouldn't need to make them public. And then when they refuse to answer them in public, that's when things really get dicey, because they have a duty to answer those questions. And they may not think so,
by
but
the way,
they do.
you heard his explanation, though, right? That they should go through the committee chairperson. You got that email, right? What did you think about that? I mean, is that
you can only run in circles for so long before you realize you're chasing your tail. Okay. I've heard that line enough times.
Well, we only have, unfortunately, a few minutes left. I
Oh, my
can't believe
goodness.
it.
I
But
thought I was
Roland,
gonna
Well, give it to somebody else.
no, I know, but you have a few warrant articles that, I mean, that you proposed, and you got
Two, yeah.
two, and one for, what's his name, Jerry
Jerry
Lowe.
Lowe proposed one, yes.
So I wondered if you guys don't mind, if we could talk a couple of minutes about these warrant articles, since you're all town meeting reps. Yeah, you all are. So would you mind, could you summarize one, and then we'll talk for a minute about it, and then the other one of your two warrant? Could you just summarize what one of them was?
Oh, one
your
of them.
citizen
One
petition.
of the citizen, a citizen position, a citizen petition
Sorry.
is a proposal signed by 10 residents to go before town meeting as a warrant article. It's a way for residents to place a warrant article on the agenda. And one of them is addressing this issue of no bid contracts by requesting that the town meeting approve a bylaw change to require the town manager to report quarterly how much is spent on no bid services that are contracts exceeding $2,000 each.
Yes.
So we're not intending to, we're not worried about paper clips or pens or that kind of thing. You know, they got to order paper, that's not a problem. But the town manager has refused to answer a question about how much is spent on these contracts because it isn't required by law.
Yeah.
So we need to make it required by law.
Yeah.
It's the only way to find out even how much is being spent on this stuff.
Yes. Yeah.
Now, some people in the government are saying it's zero. So this law should create no burden at all if it's zero, but I don't think it's zero.
Right. Yeah.
I mean,
so
there's
that's one of
evidence
the
that it's not.
articles that will come up at, hopefully. Right now, it's scheduled to come up for our
Yeah, and there are
spring town
specifics
meeting.
in the warrant article
Specific- yeah,
that
well, that's
show, you know, that when we're not trying to be
Yeah.
onerous, it shouldn't, unless the number of contracts far exceeds what I can even imagine is possible.
Yeah.
I don't think it would create any additional burden on the financial office or the town controller just to provide that information.
Yes. Yeah.
Somebody should be checking it anyway before the checks go out.
Yeah. And do you want to talk quickly about your other warrant article?
The other one is a request to have the town meeting encourage the Board of Selectmen to uphold the law
Yeah.
with respect to the preservation restriction on 9 North Road. That preservation restriction inures to the benefit of every resident of the town, and I think it's unacceptable for the Board of Selectmen to assert that they will not uphold the law. And the town meeting cannot force the selectmen to do anything.
Yeah.
But we would like a vote of encouragement to do the right thing here.
Yeah. And Jerry Lowe had a citizen petition which has to do with the Chelmsford Board of Appeals.
That's
He would like to make that an elected position rather than an appointed position.
Yes.
Right? And any thoughts about that? Any feelings about that particular article? You may not have any, but
I haven't even studied it. I really don't know about it yet.
Well,
but-
the zoning board is appointed rather than elected right now.
yes.
And the town manager appoints 3 or 4 times as many committee and board members as voters get to elect. And I agree with Jerry Lowe that voters would make better decisions for the zoning board of appeals than the town manager has shown, because people with conflicts of interest have been appointed and are sitting on that board, 40B developer lawyers. That's the board that grants and discusses 40B comprehensive permits. Subcontractors that provide services to developers. There's at least one on that committee. Shouldn't be there. Now, the town ethics bylaw doesn't prohibit them from serving. They're not doing anything wrong by serving.
Yeah.
It prohibits them from being appointed. It's the town manager that's violating the ethics bylaw. And this is what I mean by oversight. Where are the selectmen? They could keep this from happening, but they're not. So what choice do we have as residents
Yeah.
but to make
Yeah.
the board elected rather than appointed?
Yes, thank you. Well, we have just 5 minutes left on the show. How about the last time was a very important topic in town, which is the new fire station. Any thoughts about that? Right now, they're in the plans have been presented, initial plans to the planning board. Chris, you were on the planning board for many years, so I don't know if you saw that or not. But Roland, I don't know if you've been up on that, the new plans for the fire station. And so any thoughts, you're welcome. I don't want to talk too much, but.
It's certainly been through an evolutionary process, to say the least. And I do think that historically a great opportunity was lost because it's not being built in the best location it could be. But that's unfortunately history. And of course, it didn't happen on Wilson and Chelmsford Street. ironically, land which back in 2004 the town tried to sell unsuccessfully. But
Thank God we didn't sell it,
yes,
right?
exactly. But that's, I digress. That's how I got into politics, but I will not.
Historical perspective is very valuable.
No,
Yes,
no, it
yeah.
certainly is, but I will not go any further on that. But in the current location, it seems to me it's what we have to settle for. And I think it's really important that more attention be made to the concerns of the abutters than might be paid. And this is not the first time in our town's history where a town development has clashed with the interests of abutters. But it seems as though that's where it's going to be. But I think there are times when I have heard comments about abutters' concerns that are somehow dismissive, and that really concerns me. And I think that it certainly has to be made aesthetically pleasing as possible because the way it is going into that site. But just the whole logistics of it now, parking, access, et cetera, it strikes me from what I'm reading about it that it's creating a whole other raft of problems. And it's amazing how decisions that you make in the past can keep rippling through and have unintended consequences,
Yes,
the effects in the future of having to live with and make decisions about things that you don't like. So the moral of the story is don't lose control of town-owned property.
Yes, thank you. Any other comments about the new fire station?
I think she's got it dead on. You have to really be careful about what you do because we're going to have this fire station for a very, very long time.
Yes. Yeah.
Hopefully for that will be the spot that we don't have to go through this again. But the aesthetics of it's going to be very important. It's a tough location. It's really going to be tough, and they've been fighting back and forth trying to find a spot. I think it came out that nobody's delighted, but it looks like this is what we're going to end up with. And maybe you'll take and do some good with the old town hall, give it a little bit of renovation. But costs are going to be a big issue here.
Yeah.
I mean, they got to be really watched
I would like to
close.
comment on that. I do, given that construction is being planned there, I take issue with paying twice the amount per foot for construction of a finished residential house for garage space. I mean, that's what we're doing. And this is, again, cost reduction. Why are we planning to pay $270 a foot when finished residential construction with oak wood floors and everything is $130 a foot or $135 a foot? That makes no sense to me.
Okay. Well, I wish we had more time to discuss it, Roland, but our time has run out. I hope you all enjoyed the show. And thank you very much, Henry Parlee, for being here. Good luck.
Thank you for
with your
inviting me.
election. Thank you very much, Roland, for being here. Both of you, first time on the show. So Roland Van Liew, thank you very much. Thank you very much, Chris Garrahan, for being here again. And thank you very much, Pat Magnell.
Thank you, Tom.
And thank you, our wonderful camera crew of George and Azora and Larry and our director, Pete Padula. If you have any comments on the show, please send me an email at tchristiano@comcast.net. I hope to see you around at all the town functions. We have a Support Our Town Coffee coming up on February 14th, Valentine's Day, from 8 a.m. to 10 a.m. at the Weston Nurseries. And it's going to be free. Free coffee, free scones, free muffins. It's just a way for candidates to be there. Maybe Roland could stop by and the other candidates to say hello. In fact, I'm co-hosting it with Henry's wife, Donna Parlee. Yep. And so it's 8 to 10 at the Weston Nurseries, February 14th. It's a Thursday. Thanks a lot for watching the show. Ciao.